Okay, I think we will start. We respect all the people that came on time, so thank you for that. I'm very happy to open our Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day event with Racheli Kaplan. Racheli Kaplan is the Director of Strategic Partnership at ANU, the Museum of the Jewish People in Tel Aviv. Before this role, Racheli served for 4 years as the Shlicha emissary to Toronto, Canada, on behalf of the Jewish Agency of Israel. Thank you, Racheli, for coming today and bring the voice of the Ethiopian community in Israel.
Thank you, Ifat, and hi everyone, Chag Sameach. I'm not sure if you can see through the Zoom or not, but I'm actually not a member myself of the Ethiopian Israeli community. I was born and raised in Israel to both parents who came from Russia, actually, with the great efforts of their Jewish Canadian community back in the 70s. But the Ethiopian Jewish community, Beta Israel as we call them, are close to my heart, and I hope that I can share with you some thoughts and some behind the scenes of the exhibition that we have curated and have been visited by over 1 million visitors so far up until COVID-19. So today marks Yom Yerushalayim, but it is also the formal national memorial day for the Jewish Ethiopians who were perished on their way to Israel from Sudan. Between 1980 and 1984, the Beta Israel community, more commonly as the Ethiopian Jewry, began their graduate journey from rural Gondar through Sudan in order to arrive to Israel. Leaving behind property, relatives, and convenience, Beta Israel left their villages in a signal common dream, Yerushalayim, which is why we mark this day today. Having said that, I will pause for just 1 second to tell you that I'm technologically challenged, and while I was rehearsing this a few times with the PowerPoint and the screens and any possible help around the house, now it's 9 p.m. in Israel, I do hope that it works smoothly, but I'll have to ask you to bear with me, and I know that you will because you are also nice and kind. I'm going to try and share a presentation with you. We're actually going to see a few of them tonight. Hopefully the sound will work and the slides will work and we can all enjoy ourselves. Let me start. Okay. By raise of hands, can you see that there's something on the screen? Okay, great. So what we're seeing now are a few photographs from the museum archive from life back in Gondar. Can you also see the middle item, or is it okay? Is it better now? Yes, good. This technology one day will really kill me. Okay. The journey from Sudan lasted a few thousand miles and lasted for a few months. And when the community arrived to Sudan, either Port Sudan or Khartoum or Gadaref, they were actually held in refugee camps, waiting up until 2 years until they were rescued from there and brought to Israel. The photographs that you're seeing were taken by a photographer from Bet HaTfutzot, formerly today known as ANU, and we'll get back to them because it has to do with the exhibition that we did. The pedestrian route of thousands of miles was harsh and underqualified conditions, subject to robberies, hunger, harassment, and violence. Walking the path with only a dream of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem, in their hearts took a toll, and many, actually over 4,000 individuals, lost their lives on the way. Upon arrival to Sudan, they were forced to wait in the refugee camps for up to 2 years, all by hiding their Jewish faith, avoiding practices, and living under inhumane conditions, anticipating the unknown. This is a map that I tried to print screen today just to demonstrate the route from Gondar, which is where most of the Jewish community resided, up to Khartoum. If you can see in the circle in the bottom of the screen, this is Gondar. Up on the north is Port Sudan. This is El Kadarif and Khartoum. When I asked Google Maps to give me the route possible by car, not by feet, it announced that it cannot be determined due to the conditions of the route. So imagine today, 2021, Google, the almighty, can't give us the route how to walk or to drive. So imagine that 35 years ago when these precious individuals packed up their things and started walking towards that dream of arriving to Yerushalayim. The passage to Sudan, if you're curious to know, was made possible due to secret agreements with the government of Sudan. It was an unspoken, and it was only known to a few senior individuals. And the agents of the Mossad were awaiting the immigrants at the Sudanese border, instructing them to hide their Jewish identity, preventing them from even bury their own relatives in Chesed Shelemet and not being able to bury them Jewishly. I'm mentioning this because often individuals and members of the Jewish community, Canadians, Americans, and others, we always hear about the great heroism of the Mossad, and not to dismiss the heroism of our brave boys and soldiers and the team and the special units, but the true heroes of this journey were undoubtedly the Jewish community. Packing up their things, leaving their homes, walking in inhumane conditions, only because they want to get to Jerusalem, they are the true heroes in my mind. And to fulfill that dream, our brave teams were recruited, but really it was the Ethiopian community who dreamt of coming to Jerusalem are the true heroes. This is the national memorial that was erected in 2007 in memory of the 4,000 individuals who were perished on their way from Ethiopia through Sudan to Yerushalayim. Operation Moses began formally in 1984, and it was the first national operation for bringing the Ethiopian Jewry to Israel. This operation was done in secret and brought about 8,000 Ethiopian Jews over Israeli aircraft. And a leak of information, if you believe it or not, to the Israeli press brought the operation to an end before the schedule, and many families were left behind, torn apart, and remained there until May 1991, when 14,000 additional immigrants were brought to Israel in what we call Operation Solomon. This memorial, if you see, it's built of a few elements. Those stones that are tilted are a symbol of the Jewish community that stood strong, but with the way their backs broke, so to speak, spiritually. But they did make their way from those houses in Gondar in Ethiopia to Jerusalem and to its hills and to its green pastures. This is a photograph of this memorial from a different angle taken just last week. On the left-hand side is Dr. Wuvit Woko Mangisto from the Ministry of Education, who initiated a journey for the youth to walk in the paths of her ancestors and to learn about the Jewish community in Ethiopia. This year, the journey was not made possible. Last year was not made possible, but this year they decided to walk, from those of you who know, from Mevaseret to Jerusalem. It is only a few miles long and clearly only symbolic, but they walked at night with no food, no warm clothes. And at dawn, they reached the memorial, which was very moving and very emotional. Wuvit herself walked the journey to Sudan at the age of 10. And she might join us tonight, and if she'll feel comfortable, I'll be happy to give her the stage so she can share a few of her words, but so much of what I know today comes from her. And I'd like to conclude this part by sharing with you a few words that a friend of ours, of Wuvit and myself, wrote on social media today and really felt close to my heart. A little longer and you're near, a little more and we'll get there. This is our regular tune, just a little longer, do not break. Let your feet lead you, let your eyes take you in the maze. Let the tears stop. Let your heart open, reopen, and seal the past. Just a little more and you are there. Your dream came true, but your journey will never end. This is the time to remember and to mourn, to grieve and to cry, to give thanks and to praise. Oshra Friedman made Aliyah herself at the age of 3 during Operation Moses. And as she says, she continues the journey today. So the reason that we gathered here, thanks to Ifat, is because I wanted to share with you a little bit behind the scenes about our exhibition, Operation Moses, 30 years after. We produced this exhibition. It took us to produce it 4 years, and we opened it in 2016, expecting it to be open only for a few months, but it had such overwhelming responses that we could not ignore it, and we decided to prolong it. And it ended up being open to the public for almost 4 years now. So with 1 million visitors, you'll get a taste of it today. But I wanted to also share with you a few photographs from our archives. You'll get a little bit more information about the community and the special journey that it has made. So once again, technology, let's hold our fingers crossed.
Racheli, we see you. We don't see the screen.
You see me, but you don't see the screen?
No.
Oh, great. Thank you for telling me that. Hold on.
Now it's good.
Now it's good? You've seen all of this before, right? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is actually a really special photograph of immigrants visiting the museum, as you'd formally know it as Bet Hatfutzot, in 1984. And this was part of an educational program that we had at the museum, where we invited Olim from different backgrounds to come visit the museum and to learn about their heritage and their ancestors and stories and traditions, folklore, etc. This photograph is relevant because back in 1984, we had an in-house photographer who was sent to different communities around the world, including Canada, to document the community and to learn more about it, to bring back visual documentation of those stories. Doron Bacher was sent to Ethiopia in 1983 and was taking photographs of the community. Let me share a few of them with you. Can you see now? Okay. In the center is Doron, and to his right is Orly Malesa, and to his left, the cute girl. Her name is Zahava Mahari. We'll get back to her. Doron was sent to Gondar to photograph the community. And little did he know, but one night, a white-looking man approached him and said, "We're beginning the rescue of Ethiopian Jewry. So hold on well to those photographs because they will be documenting the community when the community is long gone from Ethiopia." Little did they know that this is not going to be a one-off operation. Little did they know that it's not going to be a rescue, bang, and it's over. But Doron held to those photographs. He brought them back to the museum. Over 10,000 photographs of the community life there. It wasn't specific portraits, and it wasn't selfies like we take today. It was just documenting the community life, the Jewish community life in Ethiopia. And 6 years ago, he came back to the museum and he said, "I wonder what happened to those individuals that I took photos of 30 years ago." We really like the idea of finding those individuals and presenting their story and echoing their heroism. So we chose Orly Malesa here with the glasses, who's an upcoming producer and curator. And we asked her, take this treasure trove of photographs and see what you can come up with. So Orly Malesa sat in our archive and started going through the photographs when an idea that seemed really innovative at the time and still is today, she decided to upload those hundreds and hundreds of photographs to a Facebook page together with Doron. And the Facebook page was called "After 30 Years, We're Finding Ourselves." The outcome was that people started recognizing themselves, tagging themselves and their families, questioning what they're seeing in the photos, and wishing that they can get more information. Now imagine yourselves if you were back in Ethiopia, a man is taking your photos, suddenly 30 years after you're seeing them online, it's bringing up so much baggage, so many memories, so many thoughts, and at times painful, but at times beautiful memories of the life that you almost forgot that you left behind. So you can see here a few examples. I used to go online every day to see what people were commenting and how they were beginning to tag themselves and to say, "I think this is me. I think this is my brother. This is my uncle who died since then. This is my mother." And in a process that took a few months, we really gathered names and stories of individuals. And one of the nice things about this project is that Doron kept photographing the community here in Israel as well, both at the Ulpan and also in the other cities where they resided, because he really got a special connection with them and he wanted to know more about it. Some of the comments here are really heartbreaking because as often is the case with Aliyah and with immigration, it's not always a successful story, but it's nonetheless heartfelt. So this is, for example, Falago, and this is Falago today. She always dreamt about being a nurse. This is Aveva in her house. She was the wife of the Kes. And this is Aveva today when she found her photographs and for her husband. This couple have been married for 71 years. Just for that, I think that they deserve the applause. And this is their son, who recognized himself in the photos and recognized them and brought the photos for them to share. This is Redai, who's one of our speakers that we work with, photographed back in Ethiopia, and also his relatives. And the responses was overwhelming of individuals who finally got to see themselves. That was the common response that we got from most individuals, saying we finally see ourselves in the museum. This is a really special story that I have to share with you. I don't know if you can still see the screen. Can you see the screen now? The boy in the picture, there are two kids who are celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut, which we just marked recently. The boy on the right with the closed mouth, his name is Shai. And Shai actually began working in my department 2 years ago as a coordinator for programs for the Ethiopian community. He did not know that he has this photograph in our archives, but as he was working on educational programs, I invited him to set a date in the archive and go see if you can find something. And he went over the photographs and he found this photograph of him when he was 3 years old in Michmoret, in the Aliyah Center. And he never knew that he has this photograph. And today he's this handsome man, father of twins, living near Hadera, if I'm not mistaken. So these are the individuals that Orly and Doron collected. And when they had all these stories, the result was really interesting because as is often the case, we did not have any guiding hand in this exhibition to say, we didn't want to tell Orly what kind of stories to look for. We didn't want her to bring to the audience just the positive, just the great success stories. Even though I was a shlicha for the Jewish Agency for Israel and Ifat is now for the Jewish National Fund and we both represented Israel, in this role today, we weren't trying to do a propaganda. We really just wanted to show the community and to have people learn and love and get to know it better. So I'd like to share with you so the whole exhibition is a media exhibition. It's built out of 5 huts. In each of the hut, there is 2 stories comprised together. Each of the individuals that Orly turned to following the Facebook page were asked to take a camera or to have our cameraman join them and to speak to the camera about what is of their concern. They could speak about the successes or difficulties, about the Aliyah or life back in Ethiopia. They could even choose if they want to speak in English or in Hebrew or in Amharic. And the result is a bell curve of 10 stories, 3 highly successful, 3 quite difficult to watch, and 4 that is depending on the viewer's view, so to speak. But the first video that I'd like to show you is that of Orly Malesa herself. Orly, as the producer of the exhibition, said from the get-go, I'm the producer, I'm wearing my professional hat. This is not my story. I'm only here as a professional producer. And as we proceeded with the exhibition and with the development of the stories, about a month before finishing, she said, you know what, I want to speak to camera and to tell my own story. And of course, we were very happy to, not only because she's a very talented producer and filmmaker, but also because she brings a unique perspective. So hopefully if technology will work now again, fingers crossed, I'd like to share with you her video. My bad. Okay, we'll try something else. I think you're not seeing, right? You're not seeing. Okay, hold on. One has to be really patient with this, unfortunately. But it will be worth it once it works. How about now? Can you see now? Okay. Oh, I apologize. If anyone has any questions in the meantime, feel free to write them in the chat and we'll get back to them soon. Can you see now?
My name is Zahava Mahari. I live in California, and I first came to Israel in 1980.
Nothing.
Okay, I apologize.
If you go into the share, you'll see two things on the bottom, which you have to click off, and that'll make the sound come, and that'll make the picture come.
Let's see. I see advanced sharing options.
There should be two little boxes. When you click on your video, there should be two boxes there.
When I click on the video, let's see. Thank you for the help.
It should say optimize video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it for some reason, but it's not showing on the screen.
And you have to click somewhere where it, so that way it's optimizing the video.
Let's see. Do you see it now?
Yes.
My name is Zahava Mahari. I live in California, and I first came to Israel in 1985. I was part of Operation Moses. I came to Israel with my mom. It was just me and my mom. My dad left Gondar a little bit earlier with his brothers. He too went through Sudan, but he seeked asylum through the Red Cross. And I got to see my dad 6-7 years later for the very first time in the US. So he wasn't part of the Operation Moses. Whereas my mom and I did go through the operation, and I remember her telling me that I was very little. I didn't eat very much. I was malnutrition. And there was one point, I think, in Sudan where she almost lost me because there was no food and we didn't have any water. And it was really like a matter of surviving. You know, she doesn't know how I survived or we survived, but we did. We first came here to Mahmoud, like particularly to this neighborhood right here. After Mahmoud, they gave us a house in Petah Tikva. אני זוכרת שפה הייתי באה לקנות שוקו ולחמניה, right? Like after school. This is where I used to, there used to be Oxygen in that store. I used to buy Oxygen too. Ananas was my favorite flavor. And this is where I used to live. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I used to live here. The dati po babae kasi. Mama. This is where it all started, you know. I don't have a recollection of Ethiopia very much because I left it at such a young age. For me, you know, life itself started here. It started in Israel. It started with, like, my memories were established here in this home. The holidays, my birthday, school, getting ready for school, everything. This is the house. This is the house that I grew up in. This is where it all started, really. Mom, if you remember, this is my room. The same exact room of mine. This wasn't here. This is where I used to sleep. It's the same exact window. There's more trees. And this is your room, Mom. This is really where it's the same exact window. My dad thought that the United States was a better choice for us, and I think it worked out for the best for all of us. You know, I was able to get my bachelor's degree and my master's, and my younger brother as well, and he just graduated. So I feel like they fulfilled whatever it is that they wanted us to have. And so I pushed my parents to move to Israel, to come back, to reunite with their families, their brothers, their sisters. I mean, their whole family's here. I think that's something that they're working towards. And I really hope that together they take that effort and they come here so we can have a place of our own in Israel to come back to. So this is me, little old me. I think I was about 2.5, 3. And this very picture was taken somewhere here. I think I have the same eyes, same nose. My hands are still the same. You don't change, like you evolve, but you're always the same person. The picture it says a lot of things, and it's not just a picture. You know, there's a story. This is a story to every picture, and this is the story for this picture.
Thank you for the tech support. I knew I could always count on you guys. I'd like to share with you another video. This was obviously Zehava and not Orly. Zehava presently resides in Los Angeles till this day. She comes and visits Israel because she has family here. But overall, she remained in Los Angeles with her family, where she married an Ethiopian Jew and continues to flourish there. And one of her story is one of the ones that touched the most when we had visitors and missions coming to Israel, not only because she speaks in English, but also because you can really see the way that she presents herself and the way that she holds herself. And she says, you don't really change, you evolve, but the story kind of remains the same. On the other hand, Orly Malesa's story is quite different, and I'll share it with you in a moment. This time I'm going to watch it directly from YouTube, where you can find the other videos as well. So when we finish this session, if you'd like to find more information, you feel free to either email me or watch it directly online on our YouTube channel.
נולדתי באתיופיה. כשהייתי בת שנה, המשפחה שלי ואני עשינו את המסע לארץ ישראל, שהתחיל במסע לסודאן.
Racheli, we cannot hear.
Okay.
Again, you need to click on the two bottom and then you can share sound.
Let's see. If I click on the share screen and I choose the video and I share sound, I see it now. She speaks in Hebrew, but the subtitles are in English.
זאת אני, אורלי מלסה. נולדתי באתיופיה. כשהייתי בת שנה, המשפחה שלי ואני עשינו את המסע לארץ ישראל, שהתחיל במסע לסודאן, שהיינו בסודאן כ3 שנים במחנה פליטים. לישראל הגעתי בספטמבר 1983. אני בת 38 היום, מתגוררת בתל אביב, במאית ומפיקת סרטים עצמאית. לפני כ2 קיבלתי טלפון מבית התפוצות. כך למעשה גיליתי על האוצר הזה שנח בתוך קופסאות, תמונות ונגטיבים שצולמו לפני 30 שנה, תיעדו והנציחו את הרגעים הראשונים של העולים מאתיופיה בישראל. היה לי ברור מהרגע הראשון שאני רוצה להיות חלק מהפרויקט הזה, או אפילו חייבת להיות חלק מהפרויקט הזה. 30 שנה זה פיסת חיים מאוד רצינית, גם עבור הבן אדם הבודד, אבל בטח עבור קהילה. והרעיון של תערוכת המדיה היה בעצם להציג את התמונות, אבל לא כתמונות סטילס אילמות, אלא תמונות שמספרות סיפור של מסע. ובעצם ביקשנו לדעת מי האנשים שצולמו בתמונות, איפה הם היום, איזה מין ישראלים הם הפכו להיות אחרי 30 שנה, מה זה אומר עליהם, עלינו כקהילה, וגם עלינו בכלל כחברה ישראלית. תהליך העבודה על התערוכה התחיל בדפדוף באלבום התמונות שנח בתוך קופסאות, וחיפוש אחרי תמונות שיש בהם איזשהו אלמנט מיוחד, חיפוש די אינטואיטיבי, אחרי משהו שמאוד קשה להגדיר, אבל הוא מרטיט את הלב, הוא מושך את העין, הוא נוכח. כל תמונה כמובן זה היה אלמנט אחר. את התמונה של דסה ליבסאי למשל, בחרתי מתוך זה שבאלבום התמונות היו 2 תמונות שהציגו את המשפחה שלו, בתמונות שאני מכנה לפני ואחרי, ומה שמשך לי את העין היה בעצם השינוי החיצוני שעברה המשפחה הזאת. היום אחרי העשייה של הסרט, אני יודעת שהשינוי החיצוני הזה הוא באמת רק שינוי חיצוני. הגנים המשפחתיים שעוברים במשפחה של דסה, שמקדשים חינוך, עבודה קשה וחריצות, שרדו גם הם. בתום החיפוש הזה בחרתי 10 תמונות, והשלב השני היה בעצם לאתר ולמצוא את האנשים. הקמנו דף פייסבוק, העלינו את התמונות, והתחיל מסע חיפוש שהוא היה מאוד שיתופי. אנשים עשו לייק, שיתפו את התמונות, זיהו את עצמם, זיהו אחרים, שאלו שאלות, ביקשו עוד ועוד תמונות, וזה רק מבטא כמה צמאון גדול קיים בתוך הקהילה, לספר את הסיפורים, אבל גם למצוא את עצמנו. אחד הדברים שגרמו לי לאהוב את הפרויקט הזה ולהתחבר אליו כבר מהרגע הראשון, היה בעצם הגישה של בית התפוצות וההתעקשות לחפש מישהו או מישהי מתוך הקהילה שיספרו את הסיפור. בעצם בית התפוצות בא ואומר, מופקד בידי איזשהו אוצר, אבל הסיפור הזה שייך לקהילה האתיופית, ונכון יותר שמישהו מהקהילה יספר את הסיפור. אני חושבת שזאת ההחלטה טבעית והנכונה, אבל זאת החלטה שהיא לא ברורה מאליה. 30 שנה אחרי, אני חושבת שעדיין הסיפורים שלנו כקהילה אתיופית מסופרים על ידי אנשים אחרים, ואני מאוד גאה שאני חלק מהפרויקט הזה, ואני רוצה להאמין שזה איזושהי סנונית שמבשרת על עידן חדש בסיפור של הנרטיב של יהודי אתיופיה בישראל. המפגש עם 10 הדמויות היה מפגש מרתק ומעניין, גם ברמה האישית, אבל גם ברמה האומנותית. די מצאנו אחד את השני באמצע הדרך. אנחנו כצד שמחפש ורוצה להכיר וללמוד את הסיפור שלהם, אבל גם בהם, בכל אחד מהם הבשיל באופן אישי הרצון והמוטיבציה לספר את הסיפור ולשתף. ואני חושבת שלא בכדי, אחד המאפיינים שנכונים לכל הסיפורים זה שמשהו בחוויית החיים והקליטה הובילה כל אחד מהאנשים האלה לגבש איזושהי פילוסופיית חיים שחוצה את הגבול הפרטי והופכת להיות משהו יותר אוניברסלי. מסלול החיים שלי עד היום היה רצוף הרבה מאוד מכשולים וקשיים. חלק מזה זה קשור לנתוני הפתיחה שלי כבת של מהגרים, כתושבת פריפריה, כאישה, דעות קדומות גם שקשורים בצבע העור שלי ובמוצאי האפריקאי. אבל הבחירה שאני עושה היא כל יום להילחם על המקום שלי, לעבוד יותר קשה, ליצור ולנצח את הדעות הקדומות האלה. את אולפן הטלוויזיה הזה הקמתי לפני שנה, מתוך רצון לייצר תכנים טלוויזיוניים עבור הקהילה האתיופית. לצערי הרב, הקהילה האתיופית לא מיוצגת מספיק בטלוויזיה הישראלית, והייצוג שישנו הוא ייצוג שלילי, שגורם לקהילה הזאת להיות קצת יותר מנוכרת ורחוקה. והרצון שלי הוא בעצם לייצג את הקהילה באור אחר, לקרב אותה קצת יותר לחברה הישראלית. בדרך עוד ארוכה.
No sound.
Unmute it.
Unmuted. I see that there are a few questions in our chat room. Ifa, do you want to navigate that? Ifa, you're on mute.
I don't see any question. Maybe all the question went to you.
Oh, maybe they went just to me. They did. Someone asked if I have a personal connection to the community. So I don't have a family connection or of that kind, but before leaving for the Shlichut, I used to work at JFNA's office in Israel, and that was also the home organization for ENP, the Ethiopian National Project. And there at the age of 30 was the first time that I heard of and got to know the Jewish Ethiopian community in Israel. Back when I was in Shlichut in Toronto, we organized a few missions, what we called Tikkun Olam missions to Israel, mainly to Kiryat Moshe, which is a neighborhood in Rehovot, where there's a high population of Israeli Ethiopians. And we did different projects with them for the months, for the duration of the summer. So our students from the different campuses across Toronto and Ontario actually taught English. In return, they learned how to cook and to make special dishes from the Ethiopian cuisine. And since then, it really stayed with me. So when the opportunity of working on this exhibition and reaching out to different community organizations rose, it was very clear for me that I want to be a part of that, similar to what Oli says. Until this day, we do different projects, whether it's screening the videos, the two of them you watched, in communities around the world. We did a few events back in North America and also in Europe. We displayed the exhibition in different centers in Israel, offering the public to come and see it, even if they don't come physically to the museum, as well as developing educational kits and different informative materials that schools can use, teaching about Ethiopian Jewry, their heritage and their unique history as a community. So that's my story with them. And Ifat, tell me if you'd like me to show another video from the exhibition, or if you want to open the mics and ask for questions, I'm happy to share more.
Yeah, I could share my experience. My name is Stephen Finkelman. I'm in Kelowna, BC, part of the Okanagan Jewish community. I was in Ethiopia on a project. I've been there twice. Probably the last one was 12 years ago. And the project was near Gondar, I forget. And for a week after, I went to Gondar to visit the community. The residual community there was the Mura community. You're not supposed to say Falasha Mura, but they were part of that community. And I spent about 3-4 days there visiting the community. It was absolutely fascinating. The leader of the community was Mr. Getu Zamani, who took me around. I don't know, and he subsequently made Aliyah. I don't know if anyone knows him and how he's doing. But it was absolutely fascinating. Visited their school, there was a Shabbat service, went to see their cemetery. And it was really unbelievable to visit with that community, who I believe subsequently has made Aliyah. So that was absolutely a fascinating experience. And the person who lined me up, there's an organization in New York, it was called NACOJ, which I believe stands for National Association Conference on Ethiopian Jewry. And they sort of lined up me to visit in Gondar. It was an incredible experience, incredible. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I have
as long as you mentioned NACOJ, I will add only that similar to Soviet Jewry, like my parents, the role that the American and Canadian Jewish communities had in the efforts to bring Ethiopian Jewry is beyond reach. The pressure put on senators and administrators in the Canadian government asking to call for action and make a difference. It brings tears to my eyes to think where we would have been today if it wasn't for our brothers and sisters who took the call and literally pushed any available button in order to make it happen. And if we always talk about, we started off by talking about the Mossad and the heroic actions that they took. And we spoke about the community that had the dream in their hearts to reach to Jerusalem. It is undoubtedly that the third angle in this triangle is North American Jewry.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Someone told me the other day that the Israeli government is trying to send back some Ethiopians who claimed to be Jewish but are not Jewish. Is that true?
I'm not a spokesperson for the government and I haven't heard that. I know that there were discussions about sending back illegal, they're not immigrants, but illegal individuals across the borders from Eritrea to work in Israel and are not Jewish. There was some public debate about it. I'm not sure that the decision was made, but it's not about the Ethiopian Jewry.
Okay, thank you.
But there are Ethiopian Jews who are still in Ethiopia.
Oh, yes.
And are waiting to come to Israel. And most recently, I think it was 2 months ago, 400 of them were brought, but needless to say that there are many more still left behind.
How easy is that going to be given the fact that there is now internal warfare in Ethiopia?
Sorry, I missed the beginning of the question. How is what?
How easy is that going to be given that there is now internal warfare in Ethiopia?
So I actually asked a friend of mine, the one who wrote the post on her feelings that I shared with you earlier, because she has family in the other region of Tigray, which is where the civil war is taking place, and it's presently on hold. But the one thing that does help is the fact that the Israeli government needs to put a plan in place and to decide with the Ethiopian government on a quota of how many individuals can come each month. And then it surpasses the difficulties of the war there. And speaking of war, it was really emotional to see when Israel recently signed a peace accord with Sudan, thinking about how the individuals made that journey through Sudan, which was so hostile as a Muslim country, and where we are today. So that's another angle to the story.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I was in Ethiopia a few years after Stephen, and I went down to meet with Micha Feldman, who was in charge of Operation Moses and all the rest. Yeah. My husband and I brought back, with a few Canadians, we brought back 76 Ethiopians to Israel, and they kissed the ground when we all got off the plane, and we got them settled in Ashkelon, with their families and came back to Canada after, changed my life. I was in all those places that you showed in the first few photographs. I've been to all those places. It was.
When was that?
January 2013.
Wow.
It was an incredible experience. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
One of the interesting things in Ethiopia is that the Ethiopian Orthodox Church heavily reveres the Old Testament. And there's this major connection with King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. And half the men in Ethiopia are called Solomon. So that there's this amazing connection between Ethiopians and Judaism, even if they're not Jewish. They even believe that the Ark of the Covenant was brought back with the Queen of Sheba and is currently in a church in northern Ethiopia, which is very interesting. So, you know, many people there think that they're Jewish. It's hard to know who is and who isn't. The persons that I met were called the Mura, which had converted under duress to Christianity about 100 years ago, and now are coming back somehow to Judaism. But as you tour around Gondar, you can see all these Jewish congregations. I put that in quotation, Jewish congregations, of which maybe some are and maybe some aren't. It's and that's why it's difficult, I think, for the Israeli government. Not that there is an Israeli government now, but it's difficult to decide, you know, who is Jewish and who isn't. It's a very tricky question.
Right. On that note, I do want to share that in our museum, we have a special exhibition for children. It's called Heroes, the Trailblazers of the Jewish People. I don't know how many of you visited before COVID struck. And it's divided to different categories like scientists and cultural icons and sportsmen and scientists and revolutionaries. And under revolutionaries, one can find the late Rav Ovadia Yosef. And often people walk in and say, wait, why is he there? Is it because he was a chief rabbi? And we always explain that he's there because he was revolutionary in the fact that he determined that the Ethiopian Jewry back in 73 are in fact descendants of the Jewish people. And it reminded me, I don't know how many of you heard about the Netflix production film, the Red Sea Diving Club. It made lots of waves, and it's a film well made, but it's really a Hollywood film with not so much connection to reality, except for the story of the main character from the Ethiopian community and the Israeli Mossad agent. But the real person in real life, Dani Limor, who led the entire operation on behalf of the Mossad between 1980 and 1984, shared with me once an anecdote that really resided with me so many years after. He said that when they uploaded the Ethiopians to rubber boats to take them to the large boat to be in Port Sudan to bring them to Israel, the sea began to be turmoil. Turmoil, is that the right word? Like not at ease. And obviously the individuals started to worry, and this is the first time that they were at sea ever, and this is night, and white soldiers are holding them. And a person turns to Dani Limor, the Mossad agent, and says to him, you know, is it really worth this whole thing that we're doing, like this whole operation in a Muslim country? And, you know, who knows if they're even Jewish? And as he asked, he started hearing the individuals on his boat mumbling Shema Israel. And Dani Limor said to him, I don't know about you, but I think they're more Jewish than I am. And it was so symbolic to see how we often doubt one's story, but when we go back and we look at the origins, we really discover that we are all one big family, or all part of the Jewish story that is so unique to us.
Any other questions to Racheli? Racheli, thank you very much. It was fascinating to learn more about the Jewish community from Ethiopia and the connection to Jerusalem and Yom Yerushalayim. Thank you, and I hope to learn more about this community in the future. Thank you.
Absolutely, and come visit us once health regulations permit to do so. We would love to see you here at the museum.
Thank you, everyone.
Chag Sameach. Stay well.